Hello from the newsroom at France 24. We are interrupting our normal programming this afternoon to cross for you live to Kyiv, Ukraine, where the EU Foreign Policy Chief is holding a press conference now alongside the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba. Let's listen in.
Informally with all the foreign affairs ministers of the European Union in Kyiv. It is a historical day for several reasons. It is the first time that the Council meets outside of the European Union. It is the first time that we meet in a candidate country. But unfortunately, it is also the first time that the ministers of foreign affairs of the European Union meet in a country which is at war. Clearly, we would have preferred to meet
but these circumstances are the way they are, and we have to support Ukraine on facing this challenge. By coming to Kyiv, the European Union foreign ministers sent a strong message of solidarity and support to Ukraine in the face of this unjust and illegitimate war. I personally, before today's meeting, I visited Odessa and Kyiv to meet with the Ukrainian people, know and discuss their daily life, and see with my own eyes the brutal, inhumane nature of Putin's aggression against this country. Targeting churches, cultural heritage, ports that are exporting food for hungry people around the world. This says a lot about the true face of the so-called special military operation that Putin is waging against the people of Ukraine, which is resisting with an incredible bravery. Russia is weaponizing hunger and energy. Russia is, in doing so, extending its crime across the globe, targeting the most vulnerable people in Africa and in Asia, depriving them from their food. This is the consequences of this Navy blockage. And this is not only our claim, it's also the perception of many, as we have seen at the heart of United Nations General Assembly 2 weeks ago. Unhappily, Russia seems determined to continue its illegal actions, violating international rules and base order, and putting global diplomacy to the test. This means that we have to work more together. And we have started doing that, well, not started because we have been doing that for months, but today's discussion has provided us with a better idea of the security dimension of this situation. This has been a central discussion today with President Zelensky and with Minister Kuleba. We have been talking about the security commitments that we want to provide to Ukraine, showing our determination to stand by Ukraine in the long term, to deter acts of aggression and resist the destabilization efforts by Russia. As you can imagine, there are many different aspects under our sustained engagement. Let me start by the military side. I propose a new bilateral multi-annual envelope under the European Peace Facility of up to 5 billion for the next year in singular, more will come. And I hope that we can reach an agreement before the end of the year, when we have to agree, member states have to agree on the review of the multi-annual financial framework. We continue training Ukrainian soldiers. The target today is to train 40,000 in the coming months, and this includes specialized training for fighter jets pilots. We are also working on strengthening the cooperation between European and Ukrainian defense industries. You had an important meeting here in Kyiv a few days ago. and we will continue working in increasing resilience, cyber defense, and defense against hybrid threats such as disinformation and developing a common strategic communications. It's very important to increase our support on demining. This is a key condition for Ukraine's economic recovery and reconstruction. We are also discussing about further promoting comprehensive reform of the law enforcement sector, accountability and resilience, mainly via the strengthening of the existing European Union advisory mission that I had the opportunity to visit in Odessa. And for sure, the strongest security commitments that we can give to Ukraine is European Union membership. This is the strongest security commitment for Ukraine. Now Ukraine is a candidate country, and he is going further on this way. We talk about war, military efforts, resilience, cyber attacks, but we talk also about peace. And we have to engage both on looking for peace and the reforms needed for the adhesion process. By the end of the year, the European Union Council will receive the report of the Commission on the enlargement package that will be presented together with myself and Commissioner Borrell. Another important issue is the continuous work on accountability, including the crime of aggression and inhumane actions such as the deportation of children. Russia has to pay for its aggressions and for all its crimes. We will now take forward on work on these points in close consultation with Ukraine. And as I said before, together with the adhesion process, there is the peace formula. We took note that the Zelensky's President Peace Formula is the only peace initiative discussed in the international community. Others were mentioned, but they have disappeared. The only one that remains, the only one that attracts the attention and the work of the international community is President Zelensky's peace formula. It is, they can say, the only game in town. It is the formula. And we will continue working as European Union to make it more global and the basis for the future peace. And I am going to hand over to you, Dmytro. But before that, let me underline that this joint meeting of the European Union foreign ministers with Ukraine in Kyiv should be understood as a clear commitment of the European Union to Ukraine and its continued support in all dimensions. To support military, to support for peace, for a just peace, accountability, and working for the membership path. And it's also sending a strong signal to Russia. A strong signal to Russia. We are not intimidated by your missiles or drones. Just after I left Odessa, a new rain of drones fall in the oblast of Odessa, just some minutes after I left the city. We are not intimidated by your drones or missiles. Our resolve to support the fight of freedom and independence of Ukraine is firm and will continue. Yes, we will continue standing for Ukraine. Thank you.
Дякую, дорогий Джозепе.
Thank you very much, dear Josep.
Насамперед хочу подякувати високому
First of all,
Європейського Союзу
I would like to thank the representative of the European Union and all of my colleagues and my friends Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ministers, thank you so much for meeting today in Kyiv. It is true that this is the first time that the Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the European Union meets in such a format, outside of the current borders of the European Union, but within the future borders of the European Union. This format, this meeting is a strong sign that speaks very strongly. Today, we mentioned the way that we will repulse the Russian attack. We have a consensus around this table that Russia did not just attack Ukraine, but violated all of the principles that are the basis for Europe as such. We also broached issues related to the membership of Ukraine in the future. We also have a consensus to the effect that it's a question of time, and both Ukraine and Europe are ready to move ahead along these lines as quickly as possible, taking on board all of the reforms that Ukraine is conducting and will be conducting. Now, the key signal today was when we said that we're going to implement the 7 recommendations issued by the European Commission to initiate negotiations to membership, with a view to membership. We expect that assessment to be made honestly and without adding additional requirements. And we have a mutual understanding along these lines with the European Union. Mr. Josep Borrell showed clearly the meaning of our negotiations today. I would like to emphasize a different point. The second sanction package, an analysis was made of what can be done, what works, what doesn't work so well, and why a second package of sanctions has not been approved yet. Well, we appealed to the European Union to look at the second sanction package, focusing on 2 points. First, steps necessary to fight the misuse of sanctions already in place. And second, the new sanctions that would relate to the defense and arm industry of the Russian Federation that produces drones and missiles that are sent on Ukrainian cities to destroy them. Also, there is a case to be made to look at the sanctions against industry, the nuclear industry in Russia. We also thrashed out accountability for Russian propagandists. We are quite open to work with the European Union along these lines. Also, we would like to thank the European Union for drafting and setting up this pro-Ukrainian facility, We see that there is a broad agreement to keep on funding that European Fund for Peace that finances the training of Ukrainian military and the supply of ammunition to Ukraine. Here again, we expect that the initiative regarding the supply of ammunition and missiles be set up. And we'd like to thank Josep Borrell because a lot of headway has been made along these lines thanks to the initiatives taken by the European representative. He also mentioned the quorum of defense industries that took place in Kyiv last week. In fact, this is an appeal to countries to facilitate the cooperation of their defense industries with the defense industry in Ukraine in order to set up new processes to supply weapons and ammunition that are necessary. This is an important issue for all European countries and not just for Ukraine. I also mentioned how critical it is to activate the work on the legal base that will allow the transfer to Ukraine of Russian assets that were confiscated or frozen. There are quite a few legal points that have to be solved by legal experts regarding the framework of the respect of law. And this use of confiscated assets would make it easier on everyone. Ukraine will receive additional supplies, and the European Union will finally have found a specific solution to what to do with those frozen assets, confiscated assets. And that's where the rule of law comes in. This is a burden, and it has to be transferred. Everyone agrees that Russia has to pay for what it did. This would also alleviate that burden represented by those frozen assets. And then we talked about international markets regarding Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Everyone is contributing, and we sent out a very clear signal. The maritime channel, the maritime route to export Ukrainian grain to the world without an intervention by Russia. That marine route is a reality, and it works. If the European Union can strengthen security, we can hash out a proper solution for those exports. We have to work together with Europeans to find a possibility to export grain so that Russia doesn't stand in the way of those grain exports that are necessary to the rest of the world. We can do that without Russia, as we did before, as we did prior to the Russian onslaught. We also mentioned the issue of a special tribunal to judge the Russian crime of attacking Ukraine. Quite interesting ideas were mentioned, and this should be delved into. And then a very critical point was on the agenda today: European integration of Ukraine. Ukraine wants to become a member of the European Union. And so we're talking about opening negotiations for membership before the end of the year. That's what we want. We felt that around the table, we felt that we were a member of the European family, sharing principles and European values. And we are all ready to support each other because we are but a single united family. That was demonstrated once again today in Kyiv. Around that table, I would like to thank again Josep Borrell for being with us with all the European Union Ministers of Foreign Affairs and for those very useful negotiations.
Like Russia prepares for a long war, the West seems more and more divided. Symbolism is one thing, but could you specify what you're doing to guarantee Ukraine a long support? And to Mr. Kuleba, 1 year ago, we've seen the start of large attacks on energy infrastructure. Did you get guarantees from your colleagues today to get more support regarding air defense and maybe specifically asked regarding Germany more support like Taurus? Thank you.
Well, the European Union remains united on its support to Ukraine. We remain united. I don't see any member states faulting on their engagement to support Ukraine from the tools that we have. And what we are doing, I think I've already explained. Don't want me to repeat again what I've been telling you. What we will do more of the same. More putting on the table financial requests to the member states that have to decide. On the civilian side, economic support, which is as much as important as the military one, because the economics of Ukraine cannot fall down, otherwise there will not be any possibility of supporting the war effort. And you know that there is a proposal for 50 billion euros. And then on the military side, to revamp the European Peace Facility with a dedicated European specific fund to continue supporting Ukraine. As I said, there is a figure for the next 4 years and a commitment for the next year of 5 billion more. This is what we have to do. I understand there is not big news, but to do the same more and quicker, to provide quicker and in greater quantity of support is what Ukraine needs. And that's what we will continue doing.
Я можу відповісти всім, хто намагається створити враження і розганяє інформацію.
I would like to say to all of those who try and create this feeling, who want people to believe that there would be some kind of Ukraine fatigue, some kind of weakening of support to Ukraine. I would like to say to all those people, this will not happen, because we find solutions in all situations. And Putin would like the West and the whole world to feel that war fatigue and to give up support to Ukraine and to stop providing resources. But, and although he has used a lot of resources in order to reach that goal, cooperation still is on. Now, you may hear noise and rumors, but I support the standpoint that says that Russia is a threat to the whole world. We are united over here, the 27 ministers of foreign affairs and the High Representative of the European Union and the other representatives of the European Commission all met here. This is not just a symbolic support. It is a specific mechanism, a practical mechanism that shows clearly that that narrative, that rhetoric that tries to make people believe that there is unity is a lie. There is a political will that was clearly demonstrated today here, and we've mentioned some very practical issues. We touched upon the whole range of issues, including anti-aircraft defense. I'd like to support the Minister of Foreign Affairs for one of the European countries who said, and I'd like to quote her, "We leave no stone unturned in order for Ukraine to obtain those new anti-aircraft defense systems so that they can go through winter in security, live winter in security." And would like to call on all European Union members to support this initiative, and I think that cause was heard. I have a question for you, Mr. Kuleba. There is a discussion underway for institutional reforms with a view to membership. Can those reforms be completed, or will it take very many years? Could you explain what Prime Minister Schmidl said recently when he mentioned the membership of the European Union, and he said that Ukraine should not be a member of that group? No.
You've been listening live there to the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, speaking in Kyiv alongside the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Josep Borrell.